President.
Senator from Tennessee.
Thank you, Mr. President. Mr. President, I look forward to the President's State of the Union address on Wednesday, as I know most Americans do. And there's a lot of talk about how the President might reconnect with the American people. The President himself said a couple of days ago, after the Massachusetts elected a Republican senator, that perhaps he'd not been talking to the American people directly about core values. So if I may do this in a respectful way, I'd like to make a suggestion about what the President might say on Wednesday evening. To reconnect with the American people, I would suggest that in his State of the Union address, the President talked first about creating jobs, second about reining in the national debt, and make terrorism his third subject. Then it wouldn't hurt my feelings one bit if he stopped right there and focused his unswerving attention on jobs, debt, and terrorism until he had all three of them headed in a better direction. After all, in my view, the President struggled in his first year, not only because his agenda veered too far left, but because he took too many big bites out of too many apples and tried to swallow them all at once. Years ago, I learned as a governor that a governor who throws himself into a single issue with everything he's got for as long as it takes can usually wear anybody else out. I think that's true for presidents too. In 1952, President Dwight D. Eisenhower said, "I shall go to Korea." Then he focused on that one problem, ended the conflict, and Americans thanked him for it. I would hope President Obama would focus with Eisenhower-like intensity on jobs. In the 1980s, I found that the best way to do that was not to try to turn my state, Tennessee, upside down all at once. We were then the third poorest state in the country, and my goal was raising family incomes. I didn't try to turn it upside down all at once, but I went step by step, sometimes learning as I went. Amending banking laws, defending right to work, keeping debt and taxes low, recruiting Japanese industry, then recruiting the auto industry, both from Japan and from the United States, then building 4-lane highways so that the auto suppliers could get to the new auto plants, and finally a 10-step Better Schools program that included centers and chairs of excellence for higher education and helping our state become the first state to pay teachers more for teaching well. In my view, a step-by-step job strategy for the country should include tax cuts, less regulation, certainty, so people can make their plans, free trade, a balanced labor climate, good educational opportunities, and clean but cheap energy. Unfortunately, the President has too often proposed higher taxes, more regulation, uncertainty, protectionism, expensive labor policy, higher college tuitions as Medicaid costs are passed on to states, a national energy tax, and new costs for the businesses that we count on to create jobs. As for debt, Democrats in Congress are trying this week to raise the national debt limit by $1.9 trillion, an amount that's more than the total federal budget in 1999. To be sure, President Obama inherited some of this, but he's run up the debt more in 1 year, or in 1 year, he's run up the debt nearly as much as President George W. Bush did in 8 years. The solution for a boat sinking because it has a hole in it is not to put more holes in it. Finally, the President deserves credit for his decisions on Iraq and Afghanistan. But bringing terrorists from Guantanamo to Illinois, trying the 9/11 mastermind in New York City, and failing to interrogate the Christmas Eve underwear bomber in Detroit shows dangerous confusion about how to deal with terrorists. When I became governor of Tennessee some years ago, Ned McWhorter, then the Democratic House Speaker, said, "I want to help because if the governor succeeds, the state succeeds. In the same way, I want President Obama to succeed. The best way for him to do that I respectfully suggest, is to declare an end to the era of the 2,700-page bills and to work with both political parties, step by step, on jobs, debt, and terrorism to help Washington re-earn the trust of the American people. Mr. President, I yield the floor.